I have two welcome to the season. Two things I really need to do in this is, one, we have to kind of close up camp as what we've been through for the last 3 weeks with his football team, and also talk a little bit about the opponent and kicking off the 2015 season. And I can just say in closing up camp, it has been a really productive last 8 months for us as a football program and some of the things we've been trying to do. This summer we were very successful academically. We had two young men graduate in Jens Danielson and Andy McClendon. Both graduated this summer. I think Thomas Graham is our fourth academic advisor really in 2 years, and I think he has stepped into a very difficult situation with the changing times right now, with kind of what's gone on with the APR and the review of everything and how it all works. And for him to step into a very difficult situation, I think he's done a fantastic job, really, in grabbing the bull by the horns, where we have gone from 4 hours to 6 hours for eligibility through the NCAA because of our quarter system. I think he's really done a nice job in grabbing hold of a situation and making the most of it. I can't say enough positive things about him. He was involved with our recruiting for the last couple years, and then for him to step into the academic situation, he's really embraced it, and I think he's making a huge difference for our future. The second part of this is just what we've gone on in the last couple days, is having the opportunity to break camp and move into the new building has been a home run. I mean, I was looking for something to say, how do we determine that we're breaking camp and we're going into the season, and to have the ability to move into, you're at the same practice fields, the same building, everything going on, but to be able to move into that new building, I think has just brought a real breath of fresh air to those players. Excitement, energy, enthusiasm. The Davison complex is really, it's something special. It is really special, and I think it's been a long time coming, but I know these players are really appreciative and really excited to have the opportunity to be in it. We're going to continue to kind of move into it gradually. We're trying to get the players into it as soon as we can, but like as coaches, we may not be able to get into it here for another maybe week, maybe after the Western Kentucky game, just trying to put some finishing touches on the building. But felt like the first and the third floor were really the things that needed to be done to get these players in there and to get the fan base in there in the opening game. Since we sold those tickets, I thought it'd be pretty important to have seats for them to sit in. So to get the first and third floor done, I thought was huge, but I think it's a big-time building. Getting into camp in the last 3 weeks, I said there were really three main things we were trying to do in this camp. One was to build depth. Two was to kind of build a cohesive offensive and defense and what we were trying to do. And the third thing was leadership. Were the three main things we wanted to get done over the last 3 weeks. And I think for what our objectives were in this camp, I think it has been a productive camp. I can't say enough positive things about the way this team has worked and the job that they have done. I praise Kurt Hester a lot coming into camp in the opening press conference. But right now, I think the job Kurt Hester did gave us the ability to push these players probably a lot farther than they felt like they could go themselves. And not breaking down and having a lot of injuries is a direct result of the job that Kurt Hester and his staff did in the weight room with these players this summer, because I thought he did an incredible job. The leadership over the last 3 weeks has really started to develop as you got the whole team together for the first time. We did pick captains this week. I've never had a captain vote as close as this one was. We even had to re-vote on defense because there was about 5 or 6 people that all were within a vote that we had to re-vote it because it was so close. But I think it shows just the type of leadership we have, and not just the 4 captains, but maybe some names that aren't on that captain list that are going to be incredible leaders for us. The 4 captains that they picked were Kenneth Dixon, Jeff Driscoll, and on the defensive side of the ball were Kentrell Bryce and Vernon Butler, which I think are 4 excellent choices for guys to lead this football team and kind of be a little bit of the face of the leaders and the captains. But I think the leadership goes a lot farther than that. I think Ryan Higgins has been a great leader. I think guys like Bo Feet and Xavier Woods and Vontarius Dora, I think guys like Kirby Wixon, I think Darryl Brown. I mean, there have been really a lot of guys that have stepped up and have taken on a whole new leadership role, which has really been encouraging to see as a head football coach. So I really like the leadership, and where that is really going to come into play is when adversity hits this football team. We're going to need leadership to come through it, but I really feel strong about the leadership that we have in place right now. The second thing I talked about was depth. and trying to develop depth. And I think there are some guys that may not have played a whole lot in the past, but are really going to take on a much more prominent role this year. I think we have more depth on our offensive line than we've had. The running back depth has been duly noted with guys like Blake Martin, the way Jared Kraft has come. Boston Scott has had an outstanding camp. I think Jaquise Dancy is a very talented young man. I look on the offensive line and the way that Shane Carpenter is growing up as just a redshirt freshman. I think Darryl Brown, Kirby Wixon, Mahaffey, Josh Robinson, Jens Dan, all those guys have gotten better, and I think we're starting to create depth with some of the guys that have stepped up. At wide receiver, Marlon Watson, Marcus Gaines have had to play probably a more prominent role because we had Paul Turner and Carlos were nicked up and missed some time during camp. Both of them should be back for the opening game, but I think those guys stepped in and really had a good camp along with Grant Childress, Cameron McKnight, Alex Woodall. I think all those guys have really developed, and I talked about Ryan Higgins, and I feel really good about that we not only have one quarterback that I think is good enough to play, but right now I really like Ryan Higgins, and I think if given the opportunity, he's going to show a lot of people the improvement he's made since he had to play as a freshman. On the defensive side of the ball, a lot of unknowns with guys like Deldrick Canty, Jalen Ferguson, Cedric Johnson, some of those guys up inside, Tyler Porter, that I think are getting better and better. I like Russell Ferris, Lloyd Grogan, Michael Mims. Some of those guys are really coming at linebacker and starting to grow up a little bit. And at safety, looking at a guy like Cedric Cooper and seeing the way that he has matured has really been encouraging to see the improvements that we're making with a lot of guys and the way guys are getting better. And again, a big part of that, they've changed their body physically. They feel more confident. They've been in the same offense and defense now going into 2 years. And I think we're really starting to see some growth and that consistency start to pay off with our depth on our football team. And then you add to that a very talented freshman class. I think right now there's 7 freshmen that have a great chance to contribute. I won't say contribute. There's 7 freshmen that are going to play. Seven players are definitely going to play, and there's probably another 2 or 3 more another 2 or 3 more that have a great shot to getting in the 2 deep before this season's over as we get into it, whether it be because they missed a little bit of time during camp or they're 1 injury away, because I've always said I'm not going to burn a young man's redshirt year unless he can help this football team win, not in a mop-up role, but unless he can help this team win. And right now the 7 young men, I think both McCready and Dugas on the offensive line have shown that they are good enough to be in the 2 deep to create some depth for us. I think both of them are going to be very talented players and really do a nice job, but both of those 2 freshmen will play. Jaquise Dancy is a running back. Now, we've talked a lot about this and what role that he could play with us being 5 deep at the tailback position right now with Kenneth and Jared and Martin and Boston Scott and some of those guys there. What role could he play? But as a special teams guy and a guy that could be a return specialist and help us in limited roles as an offense with his explosiveness, we've talked about playing Jaquise Dancy. On the defensive side of the ball, Emmanuel Turner is a defensive end, and then the 2 defensive linemen in Jordan Bradford and Courtney Wallace. Courtney Wallace from Monroe. That's 3 defensive linemen that are true freshmen that have shown through practice that with their talents and abilities, they can help make a difference on this team. I think they're going to play probably a backup role as we start the season, but I could see every one of those 3 getting into a regular rotation as we start getting to the heat of conference play in the middle of the season. And then Ephraim Kitchen at corner is a guy that has really shown to have the talent and ability and the kind of awareness and the maturity to be able to help and contribute as a freshman. So right now I see those 7 players definitely going to contribute, and I think there's a couple more that may have a chance as we continue to go through this and go through another week or so of practice. And so I think camp was very productive for what we were trying to get done. The team is definitely starting to take shape. We'll find out how a lot of these young guys and new guys are going to respond under the lights when we kick off this week against Southern. And in talking a little bit about Southern, I think it's a very successful program. We're looking forward to the opportunity to play an in-state game, a rivalry game. I think the stands are going to show the interest and the excitement in the state of having the opportunity to play a game with the geographical rivalry that we have with us being as close as we are. I have great respect for that program, for the success that they've had. I've known Coach Odom for a long time, since I first went to South Carolina. In about 2000 was when I first met him. I've known him for a long time, interacted with him for a long time. I've even, had an opportunity to talk with him with some of the positions that I've had available. I have great respect for him. I think he's a fantastic football coach. I think he brings an awful lot of things to that program right now. I think he has brought discipline, I think he's brought toughness, and I think he's brought athleticism. And it's showing on the field right now in the success that they're having. You're talking about a team that has been very successful. They won 7 of their 8 games, 7 of their last 8 games last year. When you look at their regular season, they're scoring a lot of points. They're very explosive offensively. They have good athletes. They've bought in. They're disciplined. They're tough. They're physical. And I think it'll be a great challenge for us in the opening game and having the opportunity to play them at home. This is a team that's played for a couple SWAC championships the last couple years, and I think Coach Odom is really building something special down there at Southern right now. I think offensively, when you look at them, they're very balanced. They return 9 starters on the offensive side of the ball. They have a freshman quarterback that was the freshman conference player of the year as a quarterback. I think he threw 17 touchdowns and 8 interceptions last year as a freshman. Showed an awful lot of maturity. They return 4 out of 5 offensive linemen up front that have started. They've got a lot of experience. They have a 1,000-yard rusher coming back. They like to run the ball. They do it with a lot of different looks with 2 tight ends, making sure that they can put a hat on a hat and that toughness that I talked about. And then they've got a very explosive wide receiver who had 62 catches, I think it was, for about 800 yards, 800, 900 yards last year. He's very explosive. You're seeing the difference that he's also making on special teams, but I'll talk to him a little bit, talk about him a little bit more when we get to special teams, because I think he's dynamic. When I look at Quinn, I think he is an excellent player who possesses speed and change of direction and phenomenal ability with the ball under his arm. On the defensive side of the ball, they're a very pressure-oriented defense. When you look at them, they're very similar to us. That's one of the reasons that they led the conference in sacks and turnovers and forcing fumbles. They are not a defense that sits back and lets things happen. They're very pressure-oriented, very blitz-oriented. They create a lot of turnovers. Their middle linebacker is incredibly active. I mean, he had over 100 tackles, which is very active. They've got, I think, their 2 safeties really flash. They're very physical. They run downhill. But being an aggressive defense, I think Coach Odom's got them playing with that toughness and that confidence right now. And I think it's showing on the field with what they've done and the success that they've had. But I think one of the things where they are really, one of the things that concerns me the most going into this football game, is their athleticism on offense. And it's their aggressive style of play on defense, but it's very hard to simulate special teams. And their special teams, they've got a kick returner, and Quinn, he averaged 26 yards a kick return, 22 yards a punt return, which is absolutely unheard of. I only had 13 returns on punt returns, but averaging 22 yards a punt return is like video game numbers. I just think he is, like I said, he's not very big, but yet he is incredibly explosive and very elusive when he gets that ball under his arm. And it's very hard to simulate that open space and being able to tackle an open space until you go live. And so that will be a great challenge for us. They've got a senior kicker he's kicked off, and he may very well take over the punting duties as well from what little bit I read about it. But I think they are very, very talented, and they're one of the teams, and especially in FCS, that has led the FCS in touchdown scores and blocked kicks in the last couple years with what they've done in special teams. So very talented team, but as much as anything, I would use the word respect. The word respect I have for their program, the respect that I have for the athletes that they have, and definitely the respect I have for Coach Odom, knowing what type of football coach he is, and the no-nonsense, hard knocks, very physical, disciplined football coach. And I think he's really done a great job in that program, and it's going to create a challenge for us, one we're looking forward to kind of get a good evaluation on where this football team is and rolling the ball out and putting it on the tee and playing the game. That's it. Thank you. No. See, if you talk long enough, nobody will ask a question, because then everybody's like, golly, we got to be out of here soon. What questions could I answer about anybody, to anybody?
Pretty good, too. Coach, obviously, I think
Well, and we've talked a lot about it. When you look at last year's football team, we can't rely on creating the number of turnovers we did last year. We have to replace a lot of productivity when you take a Cody Sokol out of the mix and a couple guys on the offensive line. But the one place where we can make huge dividends, and the one place that I felt was our Achilles heel last year as a football team, was special teams. We had a couple big plays. Our kickoff return really did a good job with Carlos Henderson back there. But I think our punt coverage and kickoff coverage has got to improve tremendously. And I worry a little bit about our punting duties. I think when I look at our specialist, Jonathan Barnes has really done a nice job of kicking the ball. I think he's earned that starting field goal spot. He has earned it. He's kicked the ball very well. He's kicking with some confidence. And I think the team has confidence in him. I think Kyle Fisher will probably be our kickoff guy. And then right now, I still worry about the consistency we have at punter. We still haven't answered some of those questions. And so I think our coverage teams are going to have to do a great job in getting down the field. And that's where we're going to have to make huge strides in 15 if we want to be the type of team we want to become.
Considering what's on the horizon, any fear, and another coaching staff's not in Southern, but the players in terms of what they anticipate in Southern?
No, I don't. I think a couple things. A, it's the opening game. There's always an excitement and an energy in an opening game, and they're tired of hitting each other, and they're ready to go play somebody else, and that creates a lot of energy and excitement. I think the expectations for this season with our fan base, with the new building, with the buzz that's been around Louisiana Tech football for the last couple months, I think helps create that energy, and our football team can definitely feel it with our fan base and the excitement in it. And I also think, you're playing a team that's really good. When you talk about the success that they've had, I don't expect a letdown. I don't expect the team to go out there. You watch the film, they're very productive and very explosive, and I think they will get our best shot. They will get our best shot, and I think that's all we've asked our football team is like last year when you looked at us, we were kind of up and down. We had some games where we played really well against better opponents, and then it seemed like when we played the teams like they felt we should win, we didn't go out and play quite as well, whether that was losing that edge. I don't think they didn't play hard. I don't think they didn't care. You just lose that edge, and this is a game you got to play every week on edge. And this is not the game to just refer back to Northwestern State last year. This is a game that we've talked about with our team and what type of team we want to become, and the way we performed with ODU, the way we performed with Northwestern State, and some of those games last year. That's what we want to eliminate this year. We don't want to be up and down. Our expectation is to play at that level each and every week, and we talked about the maturity it's going to take, the depth it's going to take with guys getting injured, and the focus it's going to take with us as a football team to create the expectation of what Louisiana Tech football is all about, and as we're trying to build it. So I don't think this is about an FCS opponent. We have great respect for that program and the job that Coach Odom's done and what they're building and the athletes and the toughness that they possess. This is about Louisiana Tech and us getting to the point where we only have guaranteed 12 of these, and we're going to go out and play on edge, for 12 weeks in a row with the best focus, with our focus on our best foot forward.
You mentioned Quinn and kind of his video game-like numbers in the return game. Is he the kind of guy that, like you said, you mentioned you struggled in it last year. You want to, hey, let's see if we got better. Or is he the kind of guy you say, let's not kick to him, let's not punt to him?
No, well, right now I'd love to be able to say that, but when we kick and punt, I don't know where it's going. So I can't say I'm going to kick it away from anybody. We may kick it to the guy in the first row. So I don't know where it's going. But no, I think, we're going to kick to him. We're going to punt to him. We're going to try. We're going to try and punt to him. It may go out of bounds, but we're going to try and punt to him and kick to him. And we've got to see where we are as a football team right now. He is explosive, and he's one of those guys that probably a lot of the bigger schools looked at him and said, well, I don't know if he's quite tall enough, but yet when you put on his film, he's definitely good enough. And he is, I think he's a difference maker on that team. And you can see with what he's doing as a receiver, being their leading receiver with 62 catches and having the numbers that he has in special teams. But we've got to challenge our team to get down the field and to do what we have to do. But I'm worried about it because it's very hard to simulate space in special teams. And it's not only the opening game that you're trying to get the nervous energy out, but you're going against one of the better return players, I'm not going to say in FCS, in the country, because I do believe that when I watch his film.
I know you said Carlos will play or should play or whatever, but Marlon's listed ahead of him on the depth chart. Does that mean Carlos will be limited? Or
Well, Carlos has missed about the last. He practiced the first week. He's missed about the last 10 days with a finger, but he should be fine. And I think, in fairness to Marlon Watts and the way that he's worked and being in camp, the entire camp, he's earned the opportunity to start. Carlos is back. He will practice this week. He should be fine. I don't anticipate any injury stopping him from playing at this point. And, I mean, I just think it's a thing where Marlon Watts, I think, has earned that opportunity. And with the time that Carlos has missed, I think Marlon's earned that opportunity. I think Carlos, healthy and back practicing again, is going to play a significant amount. And I would definitely think that in the long run that it's going to be a great competition because we're starting to create a little bit of depth, which is what we talked about, what we were trying to do.
One omission on defense is Aaron Brown.
Right.
Was that because he joined camp late, or is there any academic stuff with that?
There's academically, Aaron's been suspended for the first 2 games. Aaron is an engineering major, and part of the he failed a class. Well, I don't even know if I can say that. He had academic issues in the fall, and under the NCAA rules that if you pass the credits, you can gain half of them back. So he has a 2-game suspension for academics. That's my quote. He has been suspended for academics for 2 games.
You look at the 2D, and I know you said they're not a true FCS team, and you look at their weights, they're not undersized,
Nope.
except from outside of Quinn and his backup at H-back. But how unusual is that in the FCS to see a team as big as they are?
No, because they have size, they have speed. Talk about Coach Odom talking about how good their skill is, and I do think they're that good. And like I said, there's a reason that they've played in a couple SWAC championships in a row. I mean, they're very talented, but they do have size up front. And then it's what they do with them. You know what I mean? They don't ask them to get out on the perimeter a lot and do those things. They play the big guys up in the box. They play a hard-nosed brand of football. They run the ball with a 1,000-yard rusher, and then defensively, they're not sitting still very often. They are moving, twisting, blitzing. They're a high-pressure football team. And I think what they've done a really nice job of saying, okay, this is what we have and how do we best utilize them. I say all the time, a good football coach will take his strengths and highlight them and his weaknesses and hide them. And that's what I think Coach Odom has done with his team, and he's really done a nice job of taking the group of young men that they have and putting them in the best position to have success, and the players have bought into it and are playing with an awful lot of confidence.
They've got some APR issues they're coming off of. They didn't have any spring practice. Do you anticipate some rust being on them?
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, walking into it, I'm not. I'm looking that we're going to play a SWAC champion caliber team, and I know those are their expectations going into this year, and I know that they've worked extremely hard. Those players have through the summer and through fall camp to get ready for this, and I'm not going in expecting rust. I'm sure Coach Odom probably has his issues on his side like I have on mine that I've been trying to get straight. But right now I'm more concerned with us, and I am looking at that we are going to get Southern's best shot. They're going to come in here. They're going to be fired up. They're going to be ready to play. They're going to be excited to play. It's going to be a full house, and it's going to be a great environment. And I think it'll be a great night of college football. It's a great way to kick off the season.
Going back to defensive tackle, how do you feel about Cedric and Tyler going in, at least for the first 2 games?
I think Cedric, Tyler, and Hakeem Gray are all 3 guys that we were talking about trying to build depth. I think Cedric has shown some flashes of really being a special player here. And I've also been really impressed with Jordan Bradford and Courtney Wallace. I think those 2 guys as freshmen. And right now, when you look at, Vern Butler on the one side, and really if you looked at our depth chart, it'd have Vern Butler and about 7 names at the other position because we're trying to figure out who that guy's going to be. And whoever the next guy up is going to be the guy that's going to be playing next to him. And there's a lot of names there. And there are a lot of guys that have shown some promise that I think are going to be really good. They're just maybe young right now. And you look at, a guy like Hakeem Gray, who's going to be a redshirt sophomore. I think he's the oldest of all of those guys. Everybody else is either a redshirt freshman or a true freshman. And so I think there's a lot of names in the mix. There's a lot of bodies, and it may be done by committee more than it is just one guy. Cedric has had a really good camp. He's done some really nice things. He's shown flashes, but as a redshirt freshman, he's just got to keep coming and show a little bit more consistency to be the type of guy that, for me to say, he's going to be the starter there.
Will it kind of be a tryout considering you have a huge test against Western Kentucky? I'm sure you'd like to see a few guys maybe separate themselves in the first week.
We will play a lot of them. I mean, we will play a lot of them, but I would anticipate we're going to play a lot of them at Western as well. I mean, because right now, once you get past Vernon Butler, I see a lot of those guys, they all have pluses and they all have minuses right now. And what we got to do is continue to get a little bit more consistent. But I don't see all that. I don't see the freshmen maturing to be juniors in a week. You know what I mean? So I would think that a lot of those guys are going to play the first couple weeks of the season. You'll see a lot of rotation on the defensive line.
Was that a hard decision, easy decision to put him on there, or to burn his red shirt, to put him on kick return?
You know, here's a question you have to ask is, can the young man help us win this year? If the answer is yes, you play him. If the answer is no, then you don't. And right now when you look at Jaquise, yes, he can help this football team with his explosiveness and his abilities that he has. I don't think it's fair to look at Kenneth Dixon, Blake Martin, Vernon Butler, I mean all these seniors on this team and say, another couple years we're really going to be good. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear, what do we got to do to win now? And this is part of when you don't go the junior college route. Sometimes you have to play freshmen. I mean, sometimes you have to bring guys in and there's going to be an opportunity to play, but that's also why freshmen want to come, because they want an opportunity to play early and to get on the field. And a guy like Jaquise Dancy can help this football team, and it's going to be a long season. You know, when you go with 12 games and you don't know everything that's going to happen, but I don't want to have to be making the decision to pull the redshirt year off him to play him on special teams week 5. You know, he's a guy that can help this football team in a lot of different respects. And so we've made the decision that we're going to play him.
Anything else?
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Welcome to